Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Southwest Desert. Today, we'll be exploring the intriguing tale of the Lost Yuma Gold Ledge, a fabled Apache gold mine whose secret was disclosed to only one white man before his untimely and mysterious demise. Our story begins with a 1940s discovery of a badly rusted Colt revolver in the rugged Aravaipa country near the former Fort Grant in Arizona. This weathered relic of the Wild West frontier is believed by many to be a tantalizing clue connected to the Lost Yuma Ledge. Legend has it that long before the infamous Apache leader Geronimo and his band of warriors were finally captured and confined to a reservation, this incredibly rich gold deposit was discovered and jealously guarded by the Apache. Welcome to another desert journey with your desert frontiersman, Alan. Leave a like or comment. For further adventures, hit the subscribe button. The secret of the mine's location was revealed to a single white man, a former graduate of the prestigious West Point Military Academy. His true identity has been obscured by the sands of time, and he is known to history only by the moniker Yuma. This nickname stemmed from his prior posting as an acting quartermaster at Fort Yuma along the banks of the Colorado River. However, Yuma's once promising military career was cut short in scandal and disgrace. Accused of accounting irregularities, he faced a court-martial and was unceremoniously discharged from the Army. Shunned by his former comrades and haunted by the stain on his honor, Yuma sought refuge among the Yuma tribe under the leadership of Chief Pasquale. He quickly ingratiated himself with his new hosts and took up the life of a trader, making frequent trips with his Yuma wife into neighboring Apache territory. It was during Yuma's trading missions with the Aravaipa Apache that he first caught wind of hushed rumors about an astonishingly rich gold ledge from which the tribe sourced nuggets and raw ore to barter for crucial supplies. Determined to uncover the whereabouts of this mineral treasure, Yuma doggedly worked to gain the trust and confidence of the Apache chief. After much cajoling and persuasion, Yuma finally convinced the chief to reveal the carefully guarded secret, promising him a rifle, ammunition, and various trinkets in exchange. The two men soon set off on horseback from the main Apache encampment, riding north across the rugged hills. About 9 arduous miles later, Yuma and his native guide arrived at a long ridge situated between the San Pedro River Valley to the east and a narrow, rocky canyon terminating just west of their vantage point. There, in a crater-like depression before them, an outcropping of rose quartz glittered with the unmistakable gleam of raw gold. Yuma used his hunting knife to carefully pry loose a fist-sized chunk of the brittle ore, marveling at the way the coarse gold sparkled in the bright morning sun. After securing a few choice samples, the two men took great pains to cover the exposed quartz with dirt and loose stones, erasing any obvious signs of the mineral wealth hidden just below the surface. Though certainly no expert miner, Yuma's experience was enough for him to recognize that the Apache chief had led him to an extraordinarily rich lode. He also knew all too well that the tribe would guard their golden secret with lethal force if he were ever foolish enough to return uninvited. Concluding his business in Aravaipa territory a few days later, Yuma made his way to Tucson. There, he presented the gold-streaked rose quartz samples to an old Army acquaintance, a merchant and freighter by the name of Crittenden, whom Yuma remembered from his Fort Yuma days. Astounded by the quality of the ore, Crittenden quickly agreed to partner with Yuma on a clandestine expedition to the Apache stronghold. Their plan was to thoroughly explore the ledge and extract more substantial samples to help guide their future actions. And so, late one afternoon, the unlikely pair of prospectors set out on horseback from the dusty pueblo of Tucson. They rode through the night, arriving just after sunrise at Old Fort Grant. After a few hours of rest for both men and mounts, Yuma and Crittenden resumed their trek, turning north to follow the San Pedro River downstream. Roughly 10 miles of hard riding brought them to a secluded spot along the riverbank thick with brush, an ideal location to make camp and wait for daybreak. As the first rays of morning light spilled across the rugged landscape, the two men broke camp, crossed the river, and began the steep ascent up the western mountainside. The rocky, broken terrain soon forced them to dismount and laboriously lead the horses along a faint, twisting trail. Upon reaching the long ridge, Yuma first visited with the Apache chief. The unlikely partners quickly located the camouflaged quartz ledge. Yuma and Crittenden unearthed 25 to 30 pounds of the gold-rich ore, placing their precious cargo in a sack and taking great care to once again hide any evidence of the unworked mine. The men cached their tools and cautiously surveyed the surrounding wilderness for any signs of hostile Apache warriors. Confident they had avoided detection, Yuma and Crittenden mounted up and picked their way down the far side of the mountain, descending its steep, cactus-studded flanks and emerging into the scorching desert below. They pushed their horses hard through the baking heat of the day and the chill of the night, arriving back in Tucson early the next morning, having encountered no roving war parties. The triumphant yet weary prospectors processed their sack of ore by pulverizing the quartz with a mortar and pestle. To their astonishment and delight, this initial test batch yielded an impressive $1,200 worth of placer gold, a fortune in those days. However, Yuma and Crittenden were shrewd enough to recognize that the Apache, already stirred up and on the warpath, would present a deadly obstacle to any immediate attempts to work the remote claim. And so the two men agreed to temporarily pursue their regular livelihoods and bide their time until a safer opportunity presented itself. Yuma resumed his backcountry trading operations while Crittenden returned to his freighting business, hauling supplies between the various army forts and far-flung mining camps. Loading up his pack mules with trade goods and supplies, Yuma bid farewell to Tucson, setting out with his Yuma wife on the long overland journey to the Papago tribal lands. Unbeknownst to either of them, this would prove to be the last time their friends and associates would ever see the couple alive. According to tribal oral histories, somewhere in the forbidding wilderness of Growler Pass north of Quitobafuita, Yuma and his wife had the misfortune of encountering a band of renegade Apache. This splinter group, comprised of warriors violently opposed to the reservation system, mercilessly cut down the pair of travelers. When their bodies were later discovered by a party of Papago scouts, the slain couple was respectfully buried in the shadow of the Growler Mountains, their lonely graves marked by simple piles of stones which endure to this day, a poignant memorial to two lives cut tragically short. The cairns can still be seen just a stone's throw from the old wagon road which meanders through the pass and down to the remote oasis of Cipriano Wells by the Mexican border. As the months slipped by with no word from his former partner, an increasingly concerned Crittenden came to the inescapable conclusion that some dark fate must have befallen Yuma and his bride. Grimly accepting that he was now the last living white soul to know the location of the fabulously rich gold ledge, Crittenden steeled his resolve and prepared to return to the hidden mine alone. Astride a swift and sturdy mount, his saddle festooned with a repeating rifle and a brace of Colt revolvers, the determined freighter quietly left Tucson. Crittenden rode hard all that day and much of the ensuing night, once again arriving at Fort Grant where he paused just long enough to rest and re-provision before saddling up and continuing his solitary quest. When a trio of cavalry officers noted Crittenden's arrival and inquired as to his business in the area, the tight-lipped freighter reluctantly revealed the purpose behind his journey into Apache lands. Alarmed by his intentions, the soldiers attempted to dissuade Crittenden from his course of action, warning him of the extreme peril he would face. But whether through stubbornness, greed, or a fatal combination of the two, Crittenden ignored their dire predictions and words of caution. With a terse farewell, he mounted his horse and spurred the animal toward the north and his long-awaited rendezvous with destiny. When several days passed with no sign of Crittenden's return, the commander of Fort Grant dispatched a patrol to search for the overdue prospector. Following his back trail down the San Pedro, the cavalry troopers discovered the freighter's horse wandering riderless some 10 miles south of the post. On the verge of perishing from thirst, the loyal animal was still fully saddled and bridled, its reins dangling and stirrups empty. Of Crittenden himself, there was no sign, no trace to be found. Did he successfully relocate the camouflaged ledge only to be ambushed by the vengeful Apache as he worked the exposed vein? Or perhaps he fell victim to the harsh, unforgiving nature of the Sonoran Desert. The discovery in later years of a rusting rifle on the edge of the desert flats below the mountains, coupled with the 1940s find of an antique Colt revolver in the same general vicinity, strongly suggests that Crittenden met his end either through misadventure or at the hands of the Apache whose golden secret he had helped to purloin. In the decades following Crittenden's disappearance, the Apache maintained their stony silence regarding the lost mine. It is highly doubtful that any such hereditary secrets have survived the passage of time at all. And so the mystery of the Lost Yuma Gold Ledge endures, a lode of staggering potential wealth concealed somewhere in the rugged foothills of the Aravaipa country. Like so many of the legendary lost mines which continue to haunt our collective imagination, this desert mirage of unimaginable riches has long since vanished in the mists of time, leaving behind only a few intriguing clues and unanswered questions to taunt and beguile the ever-hopeful, those who still dream of striking it rich with the mother lode of the Southwest. If you enjoyed this lost gold legend, leave a like or comment. For further desert romps, hit the subscribe button. Happy trails!